Imagine living your entire life chasing approval, validation, and success, only to wake up one day and realize that you've become a stranger to yourself. You've built the image everyone wanted to see, but somewhere along the way you lost the person you were meant to be. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us continue bringing reflections that awaken, inspire, and transform. And I promise what you'll discover in this video might change the way you see the world, and maybe even the way you see yourself. Carl Jung once said that most people don't truly live, they merely perform. From the moment we're born, we're handed a script. Be polite, be productive, be successful, be someone others admire. And slowly, without realizing it, we trade authenticity for acceptance. We learn which parts of us are rewarded and which are rejected. So we build masks, layer upon layer. The mask of confidence to hide our fear. The mask of kindness to conceal our anger. The mask of ambition to disguise our emptiness. We perform these roles so well that we forget where the mask ends and where the real self begins. We become everything society expects, but nothing our soul needs. Jung believed that beneath this mask, there lies something vast, the self, not the ego, not the persona, but the totality of who we are. Most people never meet this self. They spend their lives on the surface chasing noise, chasing comfort, chasing validation, and yet deep within, a quiet voice keeps whispering, "This isn't me." The tragedy is that this whisper is often drowned out by the noise of the world. We silence it with work, with distractions, with endless scrolling and small talk. We fill our lives with movement because standing still feels unbearable. But the truth is, it's in stillness that the self begins to speak, and it's only when we stop pretending that we start listening. Jung observed that every human being carries two lives, the one we live outwardly, and the one waiting to be lived within. The first is built by expectations. The second is discovered through confrontation, not with others, but with ourselves. And that confrontation begins when we realize that something feels off. You might have felt it, that quiet dissatisfaction that follows you even after success. That hollow ache when the applause fades. The strange sense that life is happening around you, not through you. That's not failure. That's the invitation. The beginning of what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. He said that life doesn't truly begin until the halfway point, when you stop chasing the life you were told to live and start facing the one that's actually yours. For many, that moment feels like collapse, a midlife crisis, burnout, heartbreak, loss. But Jung saw it differently. He said that when the outer structures fall apart, it's the self attempting to emerge. The soul is reclaiming space. And though it feels like destruction, it's really the beginning of becoming. But before that transformation happens, we must confront the thing most people spend their whole lives avoiding: the shadow. The shadow is the collection of everything you've denied, rejected, or disowned about yourself. It's the anger you suppress, the jealousy you hide, the fears you pretend don't exist. It's the part of you that wants to be seen but has been shamed into silence. Most people fear their shadow, so they project it onto others. They judge, criticize, and blame, seeing in others what they refuse to acknowledge in themselves. Jung warned that this is how wars, conflicts, and hatred begin, when we fail to see that the darkness outside us begins within. But here's the paradox. The shadow isn't evil. It's simply the part of you that longs to be integrated. To become whole, you must embrace your darkness, not eliminate it. You must look into yourself and say, "Yes, this too is me," he said. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. True self-discovery is not about perfection. It's about wholeness. It's the courage to say, "I am both light and shadow, both strength and weakness." And in that acceptance, transformation begins. But few people reach that point because they cling to their persona, their social face. The persona is the mask we wear to navigate society, the version of ourselves that's liked, respected, and rewarded. And while it helps us function, it can also imprison us. We start to live for appearances. We do what looks right instead of what feels right. We perform happiness instead of feeling it. We curate our lives to look successful rather than meaningful. And the cost? A slow death of the soul. The moment you start living to be seen, you stop living to be. The more you try to please others, the more disconnected you become from your truth. That's why Jung said that life begins only when you find yourself not the self that's shaped by others, but the one that exists beneath it all. Finding yourself isn't about retreating into isolation or running away from responsibility. It's about turning inward and asking the hardest question of all: who am I when no one is watching? For many, this realization comes through pain. Pain has a way of tearing down illusions. The betrayal that forces you to question trust. The failure that shatters your pride. The loss that empties your world of meaning. In those moments, you meet your shadow. And though it feels unbearable, Jung would say this is the beginning of your rebirth. Because pain isn't punishment. It's the psyche's way of forcing you to grow. He believed that the goal of life isn't happiness, it's meaning. Happiness is fleeting, but meaning sustains you through both joy and suffering. When you live with meaning, even pain has purpose. And when you live without it, even pleasure feels empty. Jung observed that the modern person suffers from what he called loss of meaning. We live in a time where we know how to build everything except ourselves. We chase distractions to avoid silence. We fill every moment with noise so we never have to meet what lives within. We've become sophisticated on the outside, yet hollow on the inside. He wrote that the greatest danger of our time is not war or poverty, but emptiness, the spiritual void that comes when a person loses connection with their inner world. That's why, despite having more technology, more comfort, and more access to everything than ever before, people still feel lost, anxious, and numb. We've confused stimulation for fulfillment. We mistake attention for love. And we've forgotten that life was never meant to be chased, it was meant to be lived. The process of finding yourself begins with awareness. You start noticing the small lies you tell, the things you do just to be accepted. You start realizing how much of your energy goes into maintaining an image. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's where the journey truly begins, the slow, painful peeling away of everything false. You start to withdraw from what no longer resonates. Not out of anger or bitterness, but clarity. You stop chasing people who drain you. You stop seeking validation that never satisfies. You start saying no, and for the first time, it feels like freedom. And then, something miraculous happens. The right people, the right work, the right life begins to unfold naturally. Because the universe has a strange way of meeting you at your level of authenticity. The more real you become, the more real your world becomes. The more you align with who you are, the less you need to chase anything. Life starts responding to your truth, not your mask. But this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, often messy, uncomfortable, and uncertain. Jung called it the path of individuation, and he said it's the most difficult, yet the most rewarding journey a person can take. Because it demands honesty, radical honesty with yourself. It asks you to face your shadow, to confront your past, to grieve the parts of you that never had a chance to exist. It's not glamorous. You'll lose people who only loved your mask. You'll face moments of deep loneliness when the old world no longer fits but the new one hasn't arrived. But if you stay with it, if you keep walking through the dark, something extraordinary happens. The pieces begin to come together. The chaos inside you starts to form patterns. You begin to feel grounded, clear, and alive in a way you never did before. Jung believed that the purpose of life is not to become good, but to become whole. To integrate every aspect of yourself, the kind and the cruel, the brave and the afraid, the generous and the selfish, into one cohesive being. He wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. You are not meant to be perfect. You are meant to be real. And when you reach that state, When you live from your center rather than your mask, everything changes. Relationships deepen because they're based on truth, not performance. Work becomes meaningful because it reflects your values, not your fears. Silence becomes peaceful, not frightening. And solitude becomes sacred, the space where you finally meet yourself. You begin to realize that the search for meaning was never about finding something outside of you, it was about remembering what was always within. The love, the peace, the clarity you sought in others was never missing. It was simply buried under years of pretending. When you stop being everything for everyone, you finally have the energy to become something for yourself. When you stop running from your darkness, you start radiating light that's real, not performed. And when you stop living by the expectations of others, life begins to unfold with quiet purpose. Because life doesn't begin when you're admired, loved, or understood. It begins when you find yourself. When you wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and recognize the person staring back. Not the mask, not the act, but you. And when that moment comes, you'll understand what Jung meant when he said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. So if you feel lost right now, if you're in the middle of that confusion, don't rush to escape it. Don't try to rebuild the old life just because it's familiar. Sit with it, listen to it. Because that discomfort you feel isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's your true self knocking, asking to be remembered. And when you finally answer that call, when you find the courage to stop running and start listening, that's when life, real life, begins. Until you make peace with who you are, you'll never be content with what you have. Carl Jung.